candidates for Lieutenant Governor. Can we get them, all three of you on the screen? I believe everybody's here, correct?
Ray's here as well.
Okay. Mr. Sosa? Okay, good. I'm Larry Lindsay, and along with Ria, we're co-chairs of the endorsement committee. Welcome, and thank you very much for giving us your time. We don't have much time. We're going to keep to a schedule. I wish we had a lot more time. We do have a series of questions that I'll give you, that I will be asking you, and we have Gloria Gilman. Gloria, can you raise a sign? We'll tell you how much time you have left, and we ask you to try to keep to the time frame. So we'll just dive into it. The first question is, why are you running for Lieutenant Governor, and why should the Second Ward endorse you? We'll start with Mr. Sims. You're on the left-hand side of my screen.
Hi, Larry, and hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Hello from 12th and South Street. This is the ultimate question, and it's the reason that I'm the only candidate that's been running for a year. And that is because of how derailed the Pennsylvania government has, and how I've spent the last 10 years in office fighting for the values that all of us share. Frankly, fighting for the values that were far too progressive and almost radical 10 years ago, but are now main planks of the Democratic platform. In what we all know to be the most radical General Assembly in the United States, I've spent the last decade as sort of the tip of the spear and the face of the shield in the House of Representatives, fighting for women's rights, reproductive rights, racial and ethnic justice, LGBTQ civil rights, criminal justice reform. And in these last couple of years, our General Assembly has gone off the rails more than any other time in contemporary political history that I can think of. And what the Lieutenant Governor's job needs right now more than ever before is experience and discipline. The two things that I have brought to my 10 years in office, the two things that I have brought to this campaign, and it's why I'm the only candidate that has campaigned statewide this last year. And it's why I'm the only candidate that's got 10 years in office that I'm trying to bring to the service of Democrats, the service of the state, and the service of the governor as the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Mr. Davis?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
You're fine.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be with the Second Ward in Philadelphia today. I'm State Representative Austin Davis, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because I want to be a strong governing partner for Josh Shapiro and to help him take on the big fights and to deliver for working class people here in Pennsylvania. I want to be a fighter in the Lieutenant Governor's office for working class people because that's who I am and that's where I come from. I'm the proud son of a union bus driver here in Allegheny County and a hairdresser, and a first-generation college graduate. My parents worked extremely hard to ensure that my sister and I had every opportunity to succeed. And Pennsylvania should be a place where every child, regardless of their zip code, has an opportunity to succeed and to live the American dream here in Pennsylvania. I want to make sure we're a place that we're creating family-sustaining jobs, as well as creating ladders of opportunities for folks to pull themselves out of poverty and to join the middle class. Working together with Josh Shapiro, I believe I can transform the role of the Lieutenant Governor and actually be a strong governing partner to get things done. When I got elected to the House of Representatives in January of 2018, I made history being the first African-American to ever win my particular legislative district, but any district in Western Pennsylvania outside of the city of Pittsburgh. I believe, in addition to being a strong governing partner, I'm the best candidate prepared to help Josh win in November. I don't have to tell you all how important and how critical this election is, but we have to make sure that we elect Josh Shapiro, our next governor. And we have to make sure that our gubernatorial ticket is reflective of the diversity and the breadth of our Commonwealth. I believe one of the critical roles of the Lieutenant Governor is chairing the Board of Pardons. The vast majority of the people who come before the Board of Pardons, quite frankly, look like me. And I think it's past time that we have a person of color chair that Board of Pardons. I believe I have the experience being a legislator for nearly 5 years, being elected to a leadership position. I'm the only person in this race that was elected to a leadership position in the House as the chairman of the House, Allegheny County House Democratic Delegation. And so I believe for those reasons, I'm the best candidate to not only serve alongside Josh Shapiro as his Lieutenant Governor, but to help Democrats win this election.
Mr. Sosa, same question to you. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
So it's simple. I'm the only candidate that's running that actually has experience in the executive branch of government. You can have branches and call yourself competent. So I've worked for 3 governors already. I've been doing task forces with 3 Pennsylvania governors since 1995. I'm an expert in interagency coordination, in criminal justice reform, in emergency management. I've been part of 11 task forces dealing with everything from earthquakes to hurricanes. I'm an expert coordinated with FEMA, the positions that the lieutenant governor actually does. And the best partner for any governor will be somebody that actually can do the lieutenant governor position, because I've done it before. It wouldn't be a stretch for me. I don't have to Google the position. I've done it before. So that's, and to add, I'm actually a member of the largest growth demographic in the state, the Hispanic community, 1.6 million. So if you want our party to win in November and the Republicans are coming right after us, pair the governor with somebody that can do the job and can actually bring 1.6 million votes from the only growth demographic in the state. So, I'm prepared for the position on day one. I don't have to stretch it. I don't have to Google it. I don't have to steal other people's positions. So with that, I've done it since 1995. So that's why.
Thank you to each of you. I wanted to remind you that these interviews will be posted on our website for everyone to see. Now, each of you answered written questions, and you did so promptly. I really appreciate it. Those questions related to the duties of the Lieutenant Governor, and such as chairing the Board of Pardons or the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Council. I encourage all the members of the ward to read your answers. They were pretty thorough. But you are the successor to the governor should something happen. So we're going to change the line of questioning away from the duties of the Lieutenant Governor to more general questions. We'll start with you, Mr. Davis, and take it up to a minute if you need it. In the event that the legislature should pass legislation which would further restrict the right of a woman to choose whether or not to terminate an unwanted pregnancy, would you be willing to exercise your veto? Would you promise us that you would exercise your veto authority to veto that legislation should you become governor?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. I would absolutely veto that legislation should I become governor. I'm proud of my record in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, is always standing up for a woman's right to choose. I've voted against every far-right restrictive abortion bill since I've been in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and I will always stand for a woman's right to choose and make her own healthcare decisions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sosa?
I think that's what unites us as Democrats. We all believe we have all those values. I would definitely veto something that restricts a woman's right to vote, to have, to do whatever she wants with her health and her body. So yes.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Sims.
Thanks, Larry. And the answer is, of course, absolutely yes. The bulk of my life's work is in support of women's and reproductive rights. My votes in my 10 years in office don't just reflect my support of women's and reproductive rights. So does my legislation. I have been a leader for the last decade in Pennsylvania on protecting and respecting women's and reproductive rights, and one of the most vocal men in our General Assembly in standing up for women's and reproductive rights. I'm glad that this is one of those issues that all three of us agree upon, because this is one of those things that is on the table in this next election, especially if Democrats aren't successful. Part of the reason that we're all here tonight is because of how important this is. But this is one of those tables that is not one of those issues that is not esoteric. This is a very prescient issue for so many of us.
Thank you. Now, we'll start with Mr. Sosop for this question. Given the threat of climate change on the one hand, and on the other hand, the possibility of additional revenue to be used to needed programs, do you support either taxation or the complete banning of fracking in the Commonwealth?
Well, you can't, had I been part of this conversation 7, 8, 10 years ago, then it would have started. But now you have 5 counties and 60,000 families that depend on fracking for their survival. So it will be an insurmountable debt to the state in unemployment alone to just cancel fracking. So I think there should be a moratorium, no more expansion of fracking, and it should be definitely a tax in the fair corporate taxation rate, so that we can make our institutions fairly funded. But I mean, fracking is here. We can regulate it, and we can actually make it greener than it is. There is technology to do that. But I mean, Pennsylvania has structured itself as a fracking state, and we are sitting on the largest gas deposit in the U.S. So I do think that there should be a moratorium, and I do think that it should be taxed appropriately.
Mr. Sims, how do you feel about fracking?
You know, we just talked about choice, and it was something that we all agree upon. And I had hoped going into this race that this would be something that all of us would agree upon as well. And yet I find myself standing alone as the only person in this race that would ban fracking tomorrow. Fracking is a terrible thing that we do to ourselves. It's a terrible thing that we're doing to this state. We should have had a severance tax a long time ago to pay Pennsylvania for what was being taken out of the land that belongs to us and insure us against the ultimate and inevitable ecological disaster that fracking is going to cause. But tomorrow, if I had the power, I would ban fracking. And I think every single Democrat should. There are more people, by the way, employed by shoe companies in Pennsylvania than employed by the oil and gas industry in Pennsylvania. There is a lot of work that we could do with respect to job training, a lot of work that we could do with, especially with our PASHE state system for job training. The fact that this industry employs people is not a reason to keep around an industry that is dangerous, that is costly, and that isn't helping Pennsylvania's future.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. I absolutely support a severance tax for the extraction of natural gas. And if we're being honest, a ban on fracking is not going to pass the Pennsylvania General Assembly in the current makeup. And quite frankly, even if those numbers get closer, I still think it would be difficult to pass. As a member of the legislature, I've been a leader on the Appropriations Committee fighting for more funding for our Department of Environmental Protection, to make sure we have a robust DEP that can go after bad actors. I'm one of the only lawmakers that stood up to major polluters and actually introduced legislation. And I'm proud of my record, my lifetime A rating with organizations like Clean Water Action, Penn Environment, and the Sierra Club for my votes that I've actually put up to protect our environment. But to answer your question, I would absolutely support a severance tax on natural gas.
Okay. Mr. Sims, have you start the first question? I mean, the next question. Do you believe there are any circumstances where the death penalty would be warranted? And if so,
No.
what would they be?
Oh, I don't. Ray, are you an attorney?
I'm not.
Okay, I was just sure. I think I'm the only attorney in this race, and I'm a civil rights attorney by trade. And you know, the Constitution, I used to believe, was very clear about a right to life, liberty, and property. One of the things that has also become very clear is that in the United States, the death penalty is done so terribly that it cannot be done. You are 12 times more likely to get the death penalty if the victim is a white person than if the victim is a person of color. We used to believe throughout the 80s and 90s that the likelihood of the death penalty had to do with the race of the perpetrator of the crime, which it still does, but it is as much about the victim of the crime. That's heinous. There is not a circumstance, I believe, anymore in 2022 where the death penalty is appropriate. There are still very heinous criminal actions that need and deserve swift justice and punishment, but I don't believe that the death penalty is appropriate in a civilized society in 2022.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, there's no situation that I would support the use of the death penalty. I've stood against that since my first race in the Pennsylvania House. I believe it's inhumane and it's cruel, and it would not be something that I would support.
Thank you. Mr. Sosa?
I've been in 4 task forces since 1995 to ban the death penalty. So I think it's a human rights violation. I don't think that resolves anything. I'm all about meritorious commutations and second chances for people that deserve it, but that's something that's medieval and it should be banned. It has no room in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Mr. Davis, this next question will go to you first. Do you support the legalization of the legalization of the recreational use of marijuana? And if so,
Yeah.
why or why not?
Yes, I do support the legalization of marijuana, and quite frankly, if I just look closely to my home district, we have a grower facility located in my district that's expanded from it's going to be expanding from 130 jobs to 800 jobs, and a former steel mill industrial town. It's creating a new economy for many small towns and across Pennsylvania who've been struggling to rebound and join the new economy. But I think we can't just legalize marijuana without a restorative justice approach for the people who have, quite frankly, been convicted of the selling of marijuana. There has to be an opportunity for them to clear their records, but to also take part in the ownership of that industry. It's $1 billion industry, and those people who've been penalized for it and locked out should have an opportunity to participate.
Mr. Sosa?
So in my opinion, medical marijuana has a lot of merit. There's plenty of studies, but recreational needs to be a study of at least 10 years, like other states have done it. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of arguments that it presents a gateway opportunity to harsher drugs. And there's some people that wouldn't like to see it just in the malls or in the schools, everywhere. So I do support the medical, but I do think that it merits a long-term study to see what the society thinks it should.
Okay, thank you all. There's a
Oh, wait,
debate-
Larry, I get, see,
Sorry,
you
Mr.
just assumed
Sims.
that I'm a yes,
Mr.
but I'm a
Sims, I'm
yes.
sorry. Go
It's
ahead.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Gloria, you won't even have to hold up your 30-second card. This is such a simple answer. Of course, I support full legalization for recreational use. It's ridiculous that there are people behind bars. As Austin just said, we need to make sure that we're doing remediation efforts to deal with people that we put behind bars. We need to make sure that those people have access to not only medicine, and that's one of the things we got to be really clear here. Whether we call it medical marijuana or not, marijuana for a lot of people is medicine. I as a legislator, have no business telling an adult, oh, there we go. I have no business as a legislator telling an adult what they can and cannot do in their own home with a plant that they could grow in a pot in their kitchen. There's the 30 seconds. So yes, of course, I support full legalization.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. I'm sorry I forgot about you. So I'll start the next question with you. There's a debate going on within the Democratic Party over the wisdom of the Medicare program and whether or not it should be extended to all citizens in the country. Mr. Sims, where do you stand on that issue?
You know, I hope this is one of those things that we all agree upon. I suspect that we all will. Healthcare, full eye, dental, healthcare is a human right. Aside from the economics of the fact that we in the United States already pay by and large enough money to make sure that every single person walking the streets in this country is fully insured and has good coverage, we're being gamed by a system that is denying us the full coverage in this country that we deserve while still charging us for it. I believe that healthcare is a human right, that everybody in the United States deserves to have full healthcare. Listen, we're a country that's built upon capitalism. There will always be independent insurance companies that are providing different, better Cadillac, different types of care. But we as a people can create a floor and make sure that every single person, every one of our neighbors, everybody in our communities has the basics of healthcare, regardless of the economics, but the economics also support it.
So your position would be to extend Medicare or to modify the Affordable Care Act?
I would say now to extend Medicare.
Mr. Davis, where do you stand on that issue?
Yeah, so I've been as a member of the House, a co-sponsor of a single payer healthcare bill when I first joined the House. I believe we have to expand healthcare access as quickly and as most efficiently as we possibly can. And if the expansion of Medicare is the way to do that, that's what I'd support it. As a member of the House Insurance Committee, I worked to set up the state-based exchange. Recently, I've introduced legislation to create an easy enrollment system to cover up to 700,000 Pennsylvanians to make it easier on their tax forms to connect with our market-based exchange. That's being implemented by the Department of Insurance and the Wolf administration currently. And this is something that an issue that I know deeply. My mom was a hairdresser. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old. She struggled for literally years to purchase affordable health care, and in many cases was not able to do it until the Affordable Care Act. Healthcare should be a fundamental right for everybody, and we should be expanding it as quickly and as robustly as possible to make sure we're covering all Americans.
Mr. Sosa, what's your position?
Well, I mean, I'm with everybody. I wish I could have a different argument, but I do think the Medicare expansion is the way to go. But that really is not even close to what the lieutenant governor would have influence over. But I mean, if it came to the opportunity of backing or supporting Medicare expansion, that would be my position.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, at this point in time, we're going to give each of you a couple of minutes to make closing comments and try to argue your case before us. We'll be making the decision on an endorsement at the March meeting of the ward, which will be March 23rd. So, Mr. Davis, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, first, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the folks who've taken the time to listen to us. I don't take for granted the work that you do as Democratic committee members. I started off as a local Democratic committee man when I was 18 years old and served as vice chairman of my county Democratic Party here in Allegheny County for 4 years before I became a legislator. And my wife and I currently serve as members of the state committee. So I've done the work with you to build our party and to support good candidates up and down the ballot. And I'm going to continue to do that work, hopefully as your next lieutenant governor. I humbly ask for your support and your endorsement in this process. I believe we should have a gubernatorial ticket that's representative of the diversity of Pennsylvania, that not only somebody who's going to be a strong governing partner for Josh Shapiro, but can help Democrats win. I would encourage you to look to the folks that know me best, my colleagues in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. I'm proud to be endorsed by the majority of my colleagues in the Pennsylvania House, including our leader, Joanna McClinton, our whip, Jordan Harris, and our appropriations chairman, Matt Bradford, along with the rest of our leadership team, as well as nearly every Democratic state senator in the Pennsylvania State Senate to be your next lieutenant governor. I would ask you to look to the leaders that you know best for their recommendation on who they believe should serve as the next lieutenant governor. I'm proud to have those endorsements. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Pennsylvania Democratic Party and SEIU, their state council, as well as UFCW 1776 here in Pennsylvania. And so I'm humbly asking for your support to join our coalition to make sure our Democratic ticket is reflective of the breadth and the diversity of our Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Sosa.
Well, folks, first of all, thank you for your fairness in giving us a chance. I wanted to share with everybody that endorsements doesn't add to your resume. I do believe that I'm the only one that has worked in the executive branch before. Experience is important. And history is the best predictor of future results. So if you've been in politics forever and you've been an elected official forever, and the crime that we have is out of control, our infrastructure is crumbling, and bridges are crumbling the same day that our president visits, then we can confidently say that we need someone that knows about interagency cooperation, that knows about emergency management, and that's an expert in criminal justice reform, and that will be me. And if we're looking for someone to represent Pennsylvania and its growth, it will be me. I will be the best partner for the governor because I represent the largest growth demographic in the history of the state right now, the Latino community. And that's exactly the community that the Republican Party is working on right now because they know that is key to winning. So experience matters. I work for 3 governors. I've been working in task forces with Governor Schweiker, Governor Rich, and Governor Randall. So I come with a built-in experience to that particular position. I won't use it as a trampoline to higher office. So if you want somebody that can do the job from day one, that'll be me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sosa. And Mr. Sims.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Gloria, as well. And thank you to everybody that stuck around to listen to the 3 of us for the last half hour. Talk about a really important race, right? It's now, I think it's 83 days away. And obviously it's important to the 3 of us, and it's obviously important to all of you. When I first asked for your votes 10 years ago and received them and was elected to the House of Representatives, I promised all of you that I would do this job differently. I promised you all that I wouldn't wait for my women colleagues to have to talk about their own bodies or their own families when sexist legislation was introduced, that I could stand up and I could do those things. I promised you that I wouldn't wait for my colleagues of color to have to talk about their heritage or their finances or their families every time racist legislation came up, that I could do those things. what I don't think any of us saw is that these last 10 years would be some of the most radically conservative in Pennsylvania's contemporary political history. And in these 10 years, I have been among the loudest voices in our House of Representatives on women's rights, reproductive rights, racial and ethnic justice, LGBTQ civil rights, criminal justice reform. I've been blessed to be sent back to the House of Representatives 5 times because, of large part, because of all of you, because of the investment that you've made in me and the investment that I have made in this work. I'm a civil rights attorney by trade, but I have spent my entire adult life fighting to make sure that those of us that are on the menu actually have a seat at the table. Like all of you, I recognize how important 2022 is. I'm the most experienced person running for this position in our state government by nearly twofold. And it's why I'm running. Our lieutenant governor position right now, more than ever before, needs leadership and it needs discipline. The rest of the state hasn't wanted Philadelphia in the executive branch for far too long. I've spent 10 years dealing with that, including right now. Let's not do the hard work that they're trying to do to exclude a Philadelphian from the lieutenant governor's mansion. We deserve representation in Harrisburg, and it's why I'm the Philadelphian running for this race. It's why I'm a Philadelphian running for a statewide race. We deserve our voice and our message and our politics to be represented in Harrisburg, because I think when that's the case, I think that's when Pennsylvania flourishes the most. I have this job because of all of you, and I hope to have this next job with your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sims.